Hello and happy
Oh,
Thursday. So coming at you live here at Inside Production Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. My name is Robert Morales for our CEO Network. Good people, better business, discovering the best of you. For the next hour, we have two very special guests we're going to be asking about their life, maybe their business, and all about this school stuff. We're also taking questions live, so if you have any questions, we'll go ahead and answer them as we go along. And if you type in those comments in the section during the broadcast, we will try to get to them as we go. So if you're watching us live, hit the little heart emoji because we love the loves. And if you're watching us on the replay, hit the little wow emoji because, wow, I can't believe you're not watching us live. So like us here, let me get rid of this real quick. Thank you. There's always so much to do. So like us here on Facebook. Also follow us at Our CEO Network, Instagram, LinkedIn. Head over to ourceonetwork.com for more information about marketing your business and sponsorships. Look at that. I did it good. I actually did quite well today. So talking to Gabby. So everybody knows that Gabby is my partner with the RCO Network. We continue to bring relevant information to small businesses, entrepreneurs. And the one thing that was very relevant, I guess, very evident that we need to talk about is kind of this school stuff and the transitions we're having and some of the things that we need to be very cognizant about and aware of. And as families are impacted, so is business and the things we do, inherently all interconnected. So we invited two special guests along today. My very first guest is, before I get too far into it, see, I always miss something. Her intro. She's a proud product of the public school system. She's the mother of two, Chicana advocate and a union member. Recognized in 2017 for Esperanza Teachers Award. She's a Red for Ed movement advocate. She's a teacher for Encanto Elementary. Please welcome Miss Alexis Aguirre. We're working on the audience. we kind of miss the audience. We kind of lose them as we do this. So hello, Miss Alexis. We'll get to Jeanne in a minute.
sure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you all about the state of education that we're in as both an educator and a parent.
Yeah. So, one of the things I've noticed, Gabby did connect us, and I'm so glad she did. I was trolling you a little bit on Facebook, and you still haven't accepted my Facebook friend request. I will kind of shun you on that. I'll shun you publicly, but that's okay. So what I was able to see was somebody that's very integrated, or at least an outspoken member for teachers. Every post that I saw and everything that I saw you engaged with was an advocate for the teachers and the teaching community. Do you want to kind of explain kind of your role and kind of what you're doing now?
Sure. So I'm an instructional coach, or what they call at my district, a master teacher. But I started as a librarian for 5 years. Before that, I was a teacher's aide for a year. After that, I was a classroom teacher for 5 years, and this is my 3rd year as a master teacher. And so I feel like I've kind of seen it from all different angles. And unless you've done it, you don't really, it's really hard to understand the life of an educator. So I really try to make sure that I'm able to share those stories and encourage our fellow educators to share their stories.
Yeah, because you're on the forefront of the education system. You're a teacher, so frontline. And what I've seen of you is just somebody that's strongly advocated. I mean, it's even in your profile. It says mom, teacher, feminist. I mean, it's all in there, advocate, and somebody again willing to put themselves forward, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses do. Always willing to put themselves forward to take a chance and to achieve an outcome that's challenging. And obviously, there were so many other challenges prior to this virus stuff, and today's conversation won't be prominently virus related, but it does. We're going to kind of tie stuff back to that. But stepping forward. Is that something that you've pursued or wanted to do, or what was that breaking point in your life where you're like, I got to speak out. I have to say something, and I really have to advocate for this.
It definitely happened that year for Red for Ed, because before that, I did my job. I stayed up late. I worked on weekends. I had 33 students in my classroom, And, you know, I did what I was told, and I loved on my kids, and I did right by my families, whatever it took. If I had to spend my own money, if I had to, you know, take on another student, I did what I had to do. But that year during Red for Ed, seeing just that it wasn't just me, hearing the stories from other folks like that also have tens of thousands of dollars in student loans, who can't afford to have health insurance for their own children, who are paying hundreds of dollars out of their own pocket just to buy pencils and paper. You know, I was like, wait, I thought maybe it was just me. I was ashamed. Like, I just, you know, I just can't figure this out, you know, and realizing, no, we're all facing this in Arizona. And really looking at the stats and going down to the legislature and realizing that they didn't really care what we had to say. They didn't care about our stories or the facts. I waited in line for over 6 hours to give testimony. And then we were told that we're only going to get 2 minutes, and only the first few people in the line were going to get to speak. And I was shocked. I had never been down there, and I was just overwhelmed by the complexity of it, but then also by the lack of respect that our elected officials have for educators and parents and our students. Because if they really cared about our kids, it would show in their budgets. It would show in the way that we provide education for our kids. And as a teacher, I know that they deserve that. And that's why I'm willing to put in the time and my own personal money, because those families send them to me, and they are trusting me that I'm going to do right by them. But I think at this point, I've gotten to the point that we need to push it up to the top, to our local school boards, to our, you know, our state superintendent, which I know they're trying to do their best, and our legislator and our governor, that we need to invest in our Arizona public schools because our kids deserve it.
Yeah, and I think you're, out of everybody that I've spoken to in the education system, you have a very unique position for a couple different reasons. Not only are you a teacher, but you're a mom too. So those days that you come home, and I'm sure you're transitioning, and where most people are kind of getting away from work and want to spend time with their family, and maybe sit on the couch and relax. You're coming home to help your kids, so you kind of do a double duty. I mean, the teacher that comes home and teaches too. But the other unique position is that your husband is part of the city council. Is that correct, Carlos?
Yes.
Let me see if I can pull that up too. So, you have I guess a unique position to where you have a voice, and somebody that's there he is, Carlos. So somebody that has a voice in government that can kind of give you some perspective on what they think in the concern. I guess, has it been brought to light why people change, I guess, when they get into government, because your husband's involved in government work now?
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't have any opportunity to change. I still yell at him to take out the trash and pick up his socks. So,
Oh boy.
But I do have it's been a unique perspective, because he is the director of a nonprofit called Fuente, which serves undocumented folks, migrants, Latino families, but also just supports the broader community, Black community, LGBTQ families, students. It was definitely a hub for our Red for Ed folks as well. So, I mean, just seeing how hard it is to get change for our community is what really spurred us as a family to make the decision that he was going to run for office. Because I mean, we are a unit, and we're also a community. So when he ran for office, it was something that we invited our friends and family and community together to say, are we willing to do this? Because we represent something bigger than ourselves. We represent our family and our community and all the folks that we're speaking for. And it has been a big shock, when he comes home and we're having those conversations over the dinner table about all the different limitations there are just to be able to provide services, and the fact that so many people are just unwilling to plan a budget and plan policies that are really going to impact change. For example, we've been, I've been sharing with him, he sees how hard I work and all of the trouble we've had with trying to get kids online to be able to do that learning when we went into crisis learning in the spring. And so, they were working on trying to get laptops into the hands of kids, only to realize that they don't have any way of getting internet in these housing projects. And so then it's like, rewind, wait, we have to go all the way back and figure out, why is there no access to internet, which now in 2020 is crucial. If you don't have internet at this moment during the coronavirus, you are disconnected from the world. And so, it is giving me a greater perspective, and all of us, because, these things are so complicated. And for just a regular person who goes and does their job and takes care of their kids, we don't understand, why is it so hard to help our families and our kids and the folks in our community? Because if we're not safe and healthy and, able to have homes and jobs, then none of us are safe and healthy.
So in the thing that in discussing, because I have a number of people that I have friends with, and they are teachers too, is that you're becoming that voice, that person that sticks themselves out and, again, extends themselves further than really a lot of people feel comfortable with. I think we showed a couple slides. I think I'll show another one too. You're becoming kind of that centerpiece, that person that people lean toward and say, you know what, Alexis, can you speak out for me, or could you say something? I mean, this was something that happened yesterday, right? The motor march. What was the premise behind that? What was going on with that?
So, we're really trying to think out of the box and think of ways that we can elevate voices of educators and parents and students, but in a socially distanced way, to share that we're really concerned about the lack of guidelines as to when it will be safe for us to go back to school, because of course we want to be back there with our kids, and distance learning is so hard. We're having to, we would love to just stand up and teach like we normally do, but we're having to do all of this back work to create these videos and presentations all online. But it's just not safe. It's not safe for our kids, not safe for our teachers or staff. It's not safe for their families either. And so luckily my school district and the Osborne School District pushed back its open date until October, but a lot of our neighboring districts are still forcing the reopen on August 17th. And, we know that if those are the cousins of our students, they're the coworkers of our parents and our families. So we're so interconnected here in the Valley that if they're not safe, we're not safe. And so we stood in solidarity with specifically the Balt School District and the Wilson School District, and their educators, a lot of them who are afraid, like you said, they are afraid to speak out and say that they don't feel safe, that there are no scientific guidelines to show that it's safe to reopen schools. And so we were asking that from the bottom all the way up, our school board members, our superintendents, Kathy Hoffman, Doug Ducey, we want guidelines as to when it will be safe to reopen our schools, so we can share that with our families and with our staff, especially being a district that serves predominantly Black and Brown students, Indigenous students. They are facing an infection rate 3, 4, and 5 times the rate of infection. And so it's just irresponsible for us to be putting our families' lives at risk, and a lot of our families who are undocumented who don't have access to medical care.
And do you think it is kind of like a political position? Because again, I think you have a unique perspective regarding your husband. Do you think it's one of those positions where you have to appease your constituents, and then you have all these subgroups and subcommittees that you also have to appease too, and you have to figure out a balance there? I mean, is your husband caught in some of that stuff, or at least does he bring it home? I mean, is that part of the dinner discussion? Like, hey, I tried, but these other people wanted more of this. It just, how does that come up, at all?
Oh yeah, definitely. We always bring work home.
I
say like we need a union to protect us from ourselves, because we're like after the work day, it's like then it's just more work and more work. But I mean, it also fuels us in the sense that yeah, it is a lot of pushing and pulling. You have the governor's pulling this way, you have parents pulling this way, and teachers pulling this way. And what we really want to say is, parents are frustrated. They're frustrated at the lack of clarity. What's going to happen? How is it going to happen? And teachers and staff are just as frustrated. We're on the same page. We have been asking, we have been, some of us have been lucky enough to be on task forces and planning. And then every week when the governor says something, it goes in the trash and we have to start all over again. And so, we are definitely on the same team as far as parents and teachers and staff and students when it comes to our frustrations. And it's really disappointing when leaders in our state are pitting parents against educators, because we know that schools struggle with so much, but when it comes to what are the diamonds in the school, like what is what people love about our schools is their educators. And so we're not going to allow them to say that teachers are the bad guys, because we are, we're working probably double as hard during this virtual learning to make sure that our students are safe and that we're providing the best learning opportunities that we can.
Yeah, and for, I think what happens in a lot of our contentious issues regarding education in schools always tends to be kind of child focused. And I watched Ducey today at his 3 o'clock speech, and the one takeaway is like that nobody ever really addresses the teacher's issues. It's always like focused on the child. And as a parent, I mean, naturally you're going to focus in on your own child. You're not going to care so much about the teachers, like, how much education you're going to provide for my child. What are you going to do for my kid? But again, you have a unique perspective. And if there was an opportunity to talk to parents, and from your side of things, what could you tell parents right now that they're missing, or that they need to know, or that they should know about being a teacher, especially in this environment right now?
Yes, I mean, I think right now what educators would like to share is that we need parent voices. We need you to share your stories and concerns with our superintendents, with our school boards, because a lot of us are too scared to share those concerns ourselves, and that we're all on the same side, because a parent's voice is valued at 100 times the teacher's voice, unfortunately. And so we need your partnership and standing with us at the next Wednesday Motor March, to join us in demanding that we have scientific criteria to base when it is going to be safe for our schools, and that we have the materials to be able to provide a quality education, which right now means technology and PPE. There were bags that were given out to schools that contained 1 thermometer. Many of our schools don't even have a nurse. We don't have a nurse.
Is that regional specific too, or is that just is that a statewide issue?
Statewide, our schools don't have nurses. Some have health techs for 800 students, but and it's not our principals or our superintendent's fault. If they could, they would hire nurses for every single school, a certified nurse, but we just don't have the funding there. So it's really disappointing to hear the governor speak right now and say that, he cares so much about education, when the only money that we're getting to add on to what our schools need is coming from the federal government. None of it is coming from the state. And so we really see a reflection of values when we look at the state's budget, and we see that Arizona is last when it comes to almost everything, when it comes to education, when you compare it nationally.
And we're at 5:20, and the hard part about doing some of these shows is that we are definitely limited on time, and so many more questions. But I think we're in the last 20 minutes of today's show, we're going to bring you back and have a discussion between you and our next guest. So if you can hang out for a minute, Miss Alexis, I'd appreciate it. But we want to share a word from one of our sponsors, because we get paid to do this stuff too. So hold on, and we will be right back.
As an entrepreneur, I am using my resources that I have available to me through my corporation, but I'm doing that so that I can establish my own personal goals and help other people accomplish theirs. I really believe in unity and that we really are all one. And I think it's important for all of us to bridge that gap. Unless you get out of your comfort zone, if you don't experience those outside resources, you never really get to grow and know that we are all really just one. Great American Title is the only company that actually has a community outreach program. Because I am such a proponent of community nonprofit organizations, that's what pushed me off the fence and made me choose this company. I always incorporated networking into my scope of business so that I could meet other like-minded professionals that I could do business with. My name is Maria Brandenburg, and this is our CEO Network. Robert, get to this!
Thank you, Miss Maria Brandenburg from Great American Title, one of our event sponsors for the longest time. So thank you very much for always being there for us. As we bring on our next guest, I want to thank Alexis for hanging in there. We're going to bring her back in just about 20 minutes, but we have a very another important guest to introduce. So I will start with her. I know Violet will like this. Born in Illinois to parents of union auto workers, she has a degree in human communication and human communication and history from ASU. Sorry. Is currently the president of the Clayton School District Governing Board, 2017 typo. You know, the weirdest thing is I was so taken up by like grammar errors and typo errors just because you guys are teachers. Okay, that was a side note. 2017 recipient of the Arizona School Public Relations Association Award of Excellence in Advocacy and Political Contributions to Education. 2018 Arizona School Board Associate Certificate of Boardship. Currently works for Phoenix Union High School. Is the current Democratic candidate for Maricopa County Schools Superintendent. Please welcome Miss Jeanne Casteen.
Thanks. Yeah, you're gonna have to do better with the faux applause.
Look at this. Oh, I got him, but I just didn't have him ready. I was running behind in a lot of stuff, Jeanne. So.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'll forgive you. Yeah, my name is Jeanne Casteen, and I am the Democratic candidate for Maricopa County Schools Superintendent. Just give you a little bit of background. I am a middle school and high school teacher, English and social studies. If you tried to get me to teach kids math and science, we're all going to be in a whole bunch of trouble. However, I still believe in science. I want to make that clear. I am also a mom. I have 2 of my own and 2 stepchildren, and I am the president of the Creighton School District Governing Board. And yeah, I've been active like Alexis in my union since entering my very first classroom. I didn't realize that in Arizona, the word union is kind of a dirty word that we're not supposed to say. And so we use this word about education associations. And so my mentor teacher at the time, this was back in 2008, she said, so do you want to join the Teachers Association? And I was like, what is that? Like parent teacher associate? Like, what is that? I thought it was this big, like, I didn't know what it was. And she said, the union. And I said, oh, of course I want to join the union. So yeah, I'm also a very proud member of my union as well.
That's awesome. And I guess one of the questions personally for me is like, there's always that moment, you walk in that first day of class, you just had your degree and you're pumped. And I used to work child abuse investigation. So anytime I had a new investigator come in, always clean cut, always the nice dressed up, and they're ready to go, books in hand, all set a game plan, everything's ready to go. But then over time, there's just things that pop up and you're like, you know what, there's something not right here. And then at some point there's that breaking point saying, you know what, this is wrong. I need to do something about this. I need to advocate. I need to say something. Otherwise it's just going to keep bothering me. What was that point for you too? Where was that one thing that just kind of started, hey, I have a bigger voice if I go for this political office?
Wow.
Is it one thing?
Yeah, I don't know that I could pinpoint one specific thing that happened. But I very quickly realized, first of all, So I joined the very proud profession of education in 2008. I am a non-traditional student. I graduated from ASU. Non-traditional means that I was older. I had kids already. And so I had worked as an office manager for many years before that and done other things, but I had never completed my degree. And when I got into the classroom, working in a Title I classroom here in Central Phoenix, I just immediately kind of saw the inequities that existed for my students. And also at that time, the English language only law had been in place in Arizona. I think it got passed in 2000. However, it wasn't until 2008 where people really started to focus in and scrutinize whether school districts were adhering to the laws. And when I realized that my students that were still learning English, despite wherever they came from, were then going to be segregated into a classroom for 4 hours, segregated. I mean, we're talking about 2008, and my students were put into a classroom separate from others because of their language capabilities. Despite what brain psychology says, despite what linguists say about acquiring a language, it made absolutely no sense. So I would say probably that may have been the first indicator to me that things were very off in Arizona. And we were one of only, at that time, I think 4 or 5 states who had this crazy lobbying effort driven by the far right to make those laws happen. Even though that we know that our students who are bilingual are really our most brilliant students, and they're our treasures, and we need to cultivate that talent because the way that they can code switch goes beyond any kind of standardized test. So yeah, I realized early on, it was 4 years into the classroom, I had a bad meeting with some higher ups in my district, and I made the decision to leave that district. And then I talked to my husband about running for school board. He's always been my #1 supporter, very supportive of me running for office. I made the decision to run for my school board, and I've been there since 2012. And I certainly never thought that I would be running for higher office in the 4th largest county in the United States of America, but here I am. And again, it's because I feel like I see a lot of the things that are missing within our public education system here in Arizona. And I'll fight to the death for my students and make sure that despite where your zip code is, that you have every single opportunity and access to opportunity that I can possibly offer you. So we refinanced our home, and a year and a half later, here we are. I'm working during a global pandemic.
So one of the questions that came across my table from one of my friends who's a teacher, so I think to clarify for most people, and before I get to the question, what is your role as the superintendent? What can you do, and what are you limited to?
Great question. Yeah, because it's really kind of the most important office that you've probably never heard of. County superintendent, and it's not common in other states. I come from the Midwest. We didn't have county superintendents. In fact, the entire makeup of school boards and all that stuff is a little bit different. In Arizona, every county has a county superintendent, and they have 3 official duties. One is the oversight of school finance, because we have a lot of very small school districts that just don't have the capacity to be able to handle things like payroll. So the Maricopa County Superintendent's office helps to facilitate that. Another really important role is that of our alternative schools. So the schools that exist within our juvenile justice system, really important role. And it even has its own kind of separate school district. And then there is, and this is the most important one, the appointment of school board members. There are 58 school districts in Maricopa County. And anytime there's a vacancy, or if somebody steps down or moves away, it is the county superintendent who then appoints somebody to those positions. So I truly believe that our local school boards are the heart of our democracy. They can determine home values. They can determine crime rates. They can determine whether or not businesses decide to move into the neighborhood. There's a lot of things happening there. And so we want to make sure that we get the strongest, most pro-public education people into those positions. And that is by far the most important role of the county superintendent.
Being able to appoint different positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that, and because you have a certain perspective, because you have a certain experience, you can assign people who you feel through that perspective to best suit those needs. So the question, going back to my friend, she wanted to know what you saw in your role in pushing forward. What's absent right now? Where do you see schools going? Because you're running unopposed. I mean, not to jinx you, but you're pretty much.
Well, no, I do not have a primary. However, currently in the office is a Tea Party Republican, and he has been in that office now for 3.5 years. And my biggest concern is the appointment of school board members again, because of my position as a school board member over the last 8 years, I've really gotten to know a lot of these different school board members, both in Maricopa County and the state of Arizona. And there's a certain kind of passion that exists with the good ones, let's say, you know, right? People who either are educators themselves, perhaps they are involved in social work, but really people who truly care about the success of our communities, and they decide to run for office in an unpaid position through their local school boards. And so over the last 3.5 years or so, I've seen some appointments of folks who maybe don't have our students or our teachers' best interests in mind. And in fact, sometimes even cases where, you know, there's people who are really heavily connected to the charter school industry, who want to further the privatization movement of our public schools, or who just kind of want to get onto the board and throw grenades. And that is not productive for our school districts. They need, you know, they need solid leadership and people who really, really care about people. And those of us who are in those positions of school board work, we all need to lead with our most vulnerable students in mind, whether it's our language learners, our refugee students, our, you know, our special ed students, our kids who belong to the LGBTQ community. Like, we need to make sure that we are sitting on that board to make sure that those kids have the absolute richest exposure to educational opportunities. And if we're not doing that, well, then you shouldn't be on a school board probably.
And how can we, you know, again, the focus is always the children. How can we support our teachers and the people that really make schools? I mean, that is teachers. It's not so much students. We care for them. That's the goal. But you know, what can we do, or what's missing with teachers right now? What can you? Is there any reassurances that you can provide? Maybe not. Is there too many roadblocks in the way?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's a tough time regardless to be a teacher in Arizona. I mean, Arizona, and I think you all talked about this a little bit earlier, but Arizona is consistently in last place when it comes to things like class sizes. I know myself, I had over 50 kids in a middle school classroom trying to teach speech and debate. Can you even imagine? No. And those classes are designed for 25 kids. So let's not even talk about social distancing, but we're consistently last in per pupil spending, teacher satisfaction. That we've made the largest amount of cuts since 2008 than any other state in the nation, even though our governor feels comfortable putting funding into our rainy day funds. I mean, a few years ago, teaching in the Maryvale area, it was literally raining in my school building. And I want to say that was 2018, the same year that the governor decided it would be smarter for him to put money into the rainy day fund. And all I could think was, it's literally raining in my classroom. So when it comes to how do we make sure our teachers are taken care of, the best way that we do that is to make sure that we elect good leadership. And that starts from local school boards and goes all the way up a lot of people like to look at their ballot and, you know, county superintendent, it's not a very sexy race, right? But we need to really focus on those local races and make sure that we vet those candidates thoroughly, those who really want to make sure that we have a strong educational system. I mean, and you, Robert, you're a business owner. You are somebody who brings small businesses together, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we don't have a place where we are educating our citizenry to be smart, critical thinkers who are problem solvers, I mean, how many businesses are we going to be able to attract, right? It just doesn't make sense. So we need to make sure that education is at the forefront of everything that we do, and not just education for the few, but education for all. And that's why I say we need to lead with our most vulnerable students in mind, and we need to elect leaders who do just that, who put their money where their mouth is, to make sure that our lowest earning zip codes are the ones who have access to an excellent education.
Well, let's say you do get into office, which I'm very optimistic you will. What is the first thing that you plan on changing, or at least moving towards? Is that the safety of the kids, or safety of the teacher? What would your first agenda item be, I guess?
Well, I mean, first off, I really want to take a long, hard look at what's happening in our juvenile schools, because there's been very little mention of that over the last 3.5 years. And I worked in the office of the county superintendent under the prior superintendent, Dr. Don Covey. And at that time, back in 2015, it was a really robust program for those kids. So, like, first, again, thinking about the idea of leading with our most vulnerable students in mind. Also, as a teacher, and Alexis can probably speak to this as well, but oftentimes our students who may cause us problems in the classroom are oftentimes our most brilliant. And for whatever reason, their brilliance it doesn't fit into that box of what we expect. So I want to make sure that those kids first, I want to see what's going on there. Second thing that I want to do is make sure that we have robust cross-collaborative partnerships with, because it's weird in Arizona that we have 58 districts in Maricopa County. It comes up quite often where people talk about the consolidation of our schools. Some people are really for it, some people are really against it. There's a big long history there, but it's difficult to manage when you have 58 school districts. Some are larger than others, some are smaller than others. Let's figure out how we can fill in the gaps for those cross-collaborative efforts. So whether that's transportation, food services, I mean, the county superintendent's office already assists these smaller districts with finance help through payroll services. Why can't we do a little bit more with that and think about how can we help spread out some of those costs? And then, of course, the other thing that I'd like to do is bring back the professional development. When I was there in 2015, the professional development department of the county superintendent's office was incredibly robust. I mean, you could go to the McKeesa website, the Maricopa County Education Services Agency website, and be able to find a STEM topic, classroom management, professional development. They had a very robust program when it came to trauma-informed care. And it's all basically vanished. And I'm curious as to why. And I'd like to be able to bring that back and really put the trust back into our teachers who are able to facilitate that kind of programming and pass it on and share it. Because teachers, we steal everything. I mean, like in the best way possible. We make sure that we share everything. The minute a teacher says that she's going to retire and says, I'm going to leave all my stuff in the copy room, we're like a bunch of vultures coming in there to take it, so we need to make sure that we have those kinds of resources, but not in that, deficit mindset that no, this exists so that you can share it and that you can bring it back to your kids and that you can bring it back to your colleagues.
Yeah, and I do remember those school drives every year when I worked for the state. That was the big thing. Every July was to do the school drive, and and we recognized, because I did work again for Child Protective Services, we recognized there was that need, that reciprocating need, and not only in our child abuse segment, but in our school system, and how reciprocal that piece is. And unfortunately, we're at 20 minutes already, Miss Jeanne. It happens. And I have like questions. I got tons of questions, but we'll get to them as we go. So if you like what you're seeing, please hit those heart emojis. I love the hearts, but if, again, you catch us on the replay, hit those little wow emojis and share your support. If you have any comments or questions, we're getting into our next segment. So please kind of type those in the comments section. And because, we got to make money, we also have to promote our sponsors and all those things too. So I am going to be playing this, and we'll come right back with both Alexis and Miss Jeanne in a discussion.
We are a community.
We are a community.
We are a community.
A community of entrepreneurs and owners.
A community of entrepreneurs and owners.
A community of entrepreneurs and owners.
We face many challenges,
But we lead with our hearts.
And we push forward.
Push forward.
We
push
forward.
To overcome any obstacle.
And we have found a place
That we can share ideas. To support one another.
And help each other.
When it matters most.
Come join us.
Join us.
Come join us because
This is our
This is our CEO network.
I can't do it. I can't smile at the end.
Oh, I love this stuff. So, because I do have to plug us too, and we do have to pay for these things and provide a platform for not only teachers, but our small business and entrepreneurs. If you want to market your business here with us at our CEO Network, we create your marketing videos, offer you social media management support, and highlight you at our marketing events such as Zoom and our conference calls. Instant messages here at Facebook at our CEO Network for details about becoming a sponsor and marketing opportunities. We appreciate it. And we are back. 1 second, get everybody together. Oh, it's everybody. So we're at the last bit of our segment. I did want to bring you guys together. Part of what our CEO Network does is it brings relationships and fosters relationships together. And so I know that you, Alexis and Jeanne, have kind of passed each other, in the community. But what's important to me is that you connect. We have a very strong voice on the front line, and we have somebody near to be in an elected position that can have that influence and can talk and mitigate and bring these groups together. And again, two very strong personalities who I believe will make an impact in our school systems. And as I have children in the future, possibly, I will be appreciating everything you do today for my children in the future. So Miss Jeanne, Miss Alexis, hello. This is Jeanne. This is Alexis. So to start off, I don't know if Violet has any questions that she'll be posting as we go. There was very specific questions. What's that?
Oh, your sound cut off for just a minute. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, so we have some questions here. I do have some questions. I did see Governor Ducey's presentation earlier. Again, the biggest thing that I took from that was there was a lot of focusing on bringing children back, keeping safe. Not really any specifics, but I think the only thing that was discussed regarding teachers was every adult wears a mask, but kids, maybe optional. So that was a little bit confusing message. But with that, I think this question from Audrey, I won't say the last name. I don't know if she wants to be called out. And this is for you, Alexis. So she indicates not only do we have a Douglas connection, Raquel Taran, is that somebody you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to high school together. Roughly, I think we graduated at the same time.
Our representative in the House.
Oh, is that who she is? I don't. It's so hard to keep up with everybody. But yeah, I think we graduated same class. If not, I think she was a class ahead of me. But just
her son and my daughter are classmates.
Oh, that is awesome. So the funny thing is, the longer I live in Arizona, which has been my whole life, the more I'm coming to find that we cross each other's paths coincidentally, and it's just weird how things kind of happen. But getting back to the work, so Audrey asked, since you do work and advocate for the union, what do you want to tell Arizonans? I guess the benefits of having the union or unionizing, because I'm understanding that teachers aren't unionized right now.
Yeah, so we definitely, encourage all of our educators to join the union, and not just teachers. This means bus drivers, cafeteria workers, teachers' aides, everybody, because it offers so many benefits. I mean, one is the legal protection, but the reason why I joined was, like I said, the Red for Ed movement. I wanted to be around like-minded people who were passionate about the profession, but also passionate about taking it to the next level and really getting the funding that our schools and our students and our staff deserve. And so I've gained so many new friendships with people across the state, and connecting and being able to share stories of people that, are really there to put in the work to make sure that, kids like my son, who have spent his entire educational experience in underfunded schools, that my daughter, who's now 4, doesn't have to go through that just like he did. And luckily he has a teacher mom at home who I'm on him, about it, but not all of our kids, have that same luxury, so I grew up in West Phoenix. I grew up in foster care, in very underfunded schools. And, luckily I got a scholarship to go to college at ASU, but I remember, I didn't even know how to write a paragraph, when I got into college. I had to relearn everything, and God bless my teachers who tried their best, but, they had, overcrowded classrooms and facing the same issues that we're facing today. And it's just not right that we've had just generations and generations of students going through this, but also educators. And we know that as parents, they always say, on the airplane, if something happens, even though it feels awkward, parents, put on your life mask first and then tend to your child. And if our teachers are not supported, they're not going to be able to do their job the way that we need them to for our kids. And that's why when the school year ended in May, we had over 1,800 classrooms without a teacher. Oh, wow. And what do we expect now? We have teachers that are making their wills, getting life insurance, young, healthy teachers. And, just teachers just saying, I'm walking away. I've sacrificed everything. I've given everything I can. I'm not willing to risk my life. And we've already lost three educators, as far as I know, a secretary at Trevor Brown. We lost a teacher in summer school and a swim coach out in Chandler. We're devastated as a community of educators, and this is only the beginning.
And I saw Jeanne kind of pop out of her seat as soon as they said union. Did you have something to say, Jeanne?
Well, I mean, it makes me think of what Alexis said in the very beginning when she introduced herself, because she talked about how, she started really getting active during Red for Ed and how the legislature largely didn't care. I mean, I was overcome by emotion that day in April, whatever it was, 2018. And I got out of the car and I just saw this sea of red. And I immediately thought of my United Auto Worker parents and all the times that they fought for their colleagues on the picket line. And I just started crying. And then as I walked through the crowd, I kept seeing, people that I'd worked with over the years. And it was a very emotional experience. But then they shut everything down. They decided they were going to recess until the next Monday. And so, we decided to have a welcome back party for them on Monday. And we all waited with our signs at the parking lot for these legislators to come in. And it was very interesting to me because here I am in Central Phoenix, where where I feel very well represented through my state legislature, through my congressmen, or women. And, I feel like I'm well represented. But these were teachers who were driving from Globe or Payson or Flagstaff to advocate for their profession. And these women would because they said, oh, you seem to know who these people are. Who is that guy? Who's that woman? Whatever. And so they tried to schedule meetings with their representatives, people that they had actually voted into office, and they flat out refused to even meet with their constituents. And I watched so many teachers back in 2018, and I get it. My dad was a lifelong Republican. It's something that was special to him. But I watched these women, mostly women, change their party affiliation because their representatives flat out refused to even have a conversation with them. I mean, what a slap in the face. So this activism that we're seeing now is largely due to the inaction of our elected officials. And I'm in Carlos's district, and I'm incredibly proud of the fact that he is my representative. And I'm incredibly proud of the fact that he pushes people to really think about, what are we doing right now as a society? And that's what all of us need to do. And you can accomplish a lot of that through union work. That union work is what provided my parents with the ability to be able to provide for us as a family, with dignity. And it's what allows us as teachers to be able to organize and make demands. And it's what will allow our future generations to go forward and build what's happening in this country, because everything is built on the backs of labor. And why shouldn't we be unified and have solidarity with our union brothers and sisters to make sure that happens?
Yeah, and coming from a place of not knowing too much, because again, I don't have any children in school. Open question to either one of you. Red Fred, what is the basis and I guess the promotion or the advocacy for that? What is Red Fred?
I think what's beautiful about Red Fred is that it means there's not like a definition of what it means to one person or one organization. It's a feeling, for me, it's a feeling of pride for public schools, and 95% of Arizona families choose public schools. It's a love for our kids and our students, and it's also, part of who we are as a community and as a people, that we've decided that education is the route for us to be able to give our children a better life. And when we have families, who may not speak the language, or if we have families who have a learning disability themselves and they can't help their student, with their homework, or we have parents, who are working 2 or 3 jobs, they are trusting us to do, the best for their child, because we're standing on the shoulders of giants, of our grandparents who, risked their lives to be here in this country, from Mexico, and my Russian grandparents who, escaped World War II to be able to raise their children here. And here I am, this, Chicana dual language teacher who sees this multitude of diverse kids and families who just want to learn, and they want to have a better life, better opportunity. And so I think that love for our kids and our public schools and our community is what Red Fred is.
And I want to say too, the fact that Alexis, I didn't realize before this interview, Alexis, that you were a foster kid yourself. And I mean, you more than anybody probably understands the bleak predicted outcomes of our foster kids. And my husband is actually a foster kid. And we need to be able to advocate for them, because a lot of people think that teachers unions are selfish, they're focused on teachers. We are 100% focused on our students, but a teacher's working conditions are our students' learning conditions. And when we have this revolving door of teachers, not because they don't love what they do every day, but because they hate the working conditions and feel like every time they walk through those schoolhouse doors, they're being spit on, essentially. Of course, they need to have somebody to represent them. And it's not just because of what it is that they're doing, it's because what they want to be able to do for their students. And so it's about our own dignity, but really it's about the dignity of our students and our most vulnerable communities.
So as we come together and we try to understand, the direction of where our school system is. So I think the biggest takeaway is that we really don't know. And even the scientists, we can get as well as informed as possible, be protected as possible, but still be concerned or afraid to step in those doors when it comes to school starting. Is there anything that small businesses or entrepreneurs or people even listening to this, corporations can do to mitigate some of these concerns or at least address some of these things? I mean, I have suggestions from Monica. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. I have some suggestions, but is there anything that these companies can do to kind of help foster a comfortable environment, not only for our children, but, our teachers too?
I would say definitely, standing with us, in support of Red for Ed. We have a hashtag only when it's safe, because there's a lot of folks saying, well, people have to get back to work, people have to get back to work. And, we have a lot of very supportive small businesses, Urban Cookies and Copper Star Coffee, who are doing the right thing and protecting their staff and their customers and saying, you know what, we're going to be honest. We had somebody that might have been exposed. We're going to close down for a week. And we're going to wait for those results because out of respect for you and our staff and everybody in the community. And I think, having business behind our schools and say, don't blame it on us. Don't blame it on businesses that we need to reopen schools. We are on the side of parents and educators and students. We need, our staff and our customers alive, as opposed to, in some unsafe conditions, as good as, as safe as we can make it in school, it's just not going to be safe enough for the kids, there will be, it's inevitable that there will be kids that get sick and there will be staff that get sick and folks will die. I mean, if you look at the rate and the numbers in countries that have tried to reopen, and we are at the center of the pandemic. So I am definitely asking for small business to stand with us in this moment.
And I feel like also I've seen a lot of small businesses really, we've gotten a lot of support in the Creighton School District from various businesses, whether it's people who want to sew masks to make sure that our classified staff are safe while they're distributing lunches, because during Q4, we continued feeding our students and families, but there was a shortage of the PPE equipment. And so like the fact that they stepped up and said, how can we help you all fill the gaps and provide those partnerships? I think that has been really huge too, because you all have a different skill set and network than we do as educators. So being able to bring us all together so that we can meaningfully, fill the needs of our communities, that's so important.
And we do have a symbiotic relationship. Anything that happens to the education system affects workers, affects staff, affects anybody that's helping, especially in my businesses and anybody else's business. It all affects each other. And so before it's the last bit of the hour, and I have so many other questions, but that it is what it is. So we'll have to preserve the rest for another time. Miss Alexis, Miss Jeanne. So the one takeaway, the one suggestion that Monica did have was to talk to corporations, as I will, address these things at our networking events, is to be more flexible in the workday work schedules. And also perhaps even have corporations integrate some sort of childcare or education system themselves, as parents are working, provide some of those supportive education. Maybe it is classrooms, maybe it is electronic, workspaces for kids so that parents can go work wherever they're located. I don't know. I don't know if there's any clear answers. I don't know if we're going to get resolved, at least not tomorrow. But I think as we pursue forward and your very strong voices are out there, I think people will at least hear you and at least hear the things that are going on. And hopefully, again, with the strength of your voices, they won't be ignorant towards the things that are actually happening. So Ms. Alexis, do you have a plug or anything that you want to promote? It's past the hour, but we'll make up for it.
Oh no, I'm not a business mind. I don't have a logo or or anything, just follow our educators in your community, support Jeanne, vote pro education, stand with us on Wednesday motor marches, and, reach out to your principals, your superintendents, your school boards. They need to hear from you as parents that you stand with educators, and that small business and corporations also stand with our public schools.
So is Invest in Ed a good appropriate hashtag to look up?
Yes, it is. We should be seeing it on the ballot, and it's definitely something to vote for. It will help us bring funds to our public schools. It's currently, under review, and so we're super excited. We worked all summer, trying to get mail-in signatures and get it on the ballot, having drive-through, socially distanced, safe signature collection. And we're really excited about the potential that it will have to give our kids the educations that they deserve.
Perfect. And then Miss Jeanne, before you get to your spot, I did want to share a couple things. This old picture, I think you remember that one.
Oh, some of my favorites. Oh, yay.
So that's me and Gabby there from the RCO network, and obviously Jeanne, Blue Mitchell, and that one person there, right, Miss Darlene?
Yeah. That's a good looking group right there, I'll just say.
I would say that, especially the photographer. And so if you want to follow Jeanne on her Facebook, let me try and get to that. Go ahead and say whatever you need to, Miss Jeanne. You have the floor.
Okay. And I'm gonna, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna just go ahead and correct you. It's Jeannie.
Jeannie.
It's okay. It's happened my whole life, so don't even.
I heard Janine too, but
I know. I've gotten it my whole life. It's Jeannie. But it doesn't, it's not, but now that I'm running for office, it's a lot more important. So
remember Casteen. Casteen
is easy.
Fill in the box next to Casteen.
To have just Jeanne Casteen makes a lot more sense. Jeanne Casteen, it's a whole extra syllable. Nobody likes it. But anyway,
I did like Janine Casteen too.
I think too, well, first of all, I want to say, we haven't had I know that this is a nonpartisan meeting here, but I'm going to go ahead and say that we haven't had a Democrat in this office since 1968. And I'm really looking forward to breaking that 52-year-long streak that the GOP has held on this office. I'm obviously I'm still running, and I know that the opposing side is probably going to be throwing all kinds of money at this race. And so there's my contact information there. So jc4mc.com if you want to contribute and support that way, or if you want to contribute your time, we will always take it. I also want to say too, like for the business owners, because I know this is a small business networking organization.
Yes.
I encourage you all to think about the daily tasks that you would like to see coming from your employees at this time. Because right now, everybody's trying to build the airplane while we're flying in midair. And so I had a good friend call me today who said, I have absolutely no idea how to teach a first and a third grader. What the heck am I supposed to do? And I encouraged her to think about the idea of reality pedagogy. Have them count change back. Explain to them the measurements when you do a recipe together, whatever it is. And so like for business, you asked earlier, now I'm going to think about it more deeply. And that's what we need from you all. Like, what are the skills? What is it that you all need? And what can we do to support those folks, both teachers and parents, and both in some cases, to facilitate the learning for their own children at home? And let's really think about reality pedagogy and those soft skills too, because I'm sure that in your businesses, you see sometimes a lack of soft skills. So help us figure out what that looks like, because we are all about trying to make sure that kind of stuff happens at home while we support our teachers who are advocating for themselves.
And with that said, thank you, Ms. Casteen, Ms. Aguirre. We will catch you guys soon. Again, at our CEO Network here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We'll catch you guys soon.
Thank you, Robert.